Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg with Cloudcast Media. You're going to be listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast, now in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Been doing great things for more than 60 years in our region. They focus on everything that is so important with our causes, whether it's food insecurity or whether it's the arts, which will be great for this topic today, and education and so forth. Honored to have in the studio with us today the Bonita Museum and Cultural Center. Mike Cohen is a trustee for the museum. How you doing there, Mike?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having us.
I'm honored to have you. Are you kidding me? How long have you been a trustee?
12 years. And took a break for a year, came back, and have been 3 years at it, and been involved in our newest and most recent project full-time.
Yeah, and so joined by one of the most creative folks walking around the planet over here, and that is Michael Leaf, CEO of Michael Leaf Design. How did you get into this field? Were you, as a little kid, playing around with Legos and all that, and you're building things in the backyard or whatever, or just something, an epiphany hit you later in life?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Honored.
Little bit of both. A little bit of both on that. Always been a creative little kid. Played with things since I could grab them. Pillow forts, stacked it up, whatever, right? But later in life, in my early 20s, is when I discovered kind of the art path of things, and I haven't looked back ever since. I know I've been doing this almost 20 years, which is kind of weird because I don't feel like I've even started.
Yeah. Well, listen, you creative types will look at something that us mortals look at, and how did you even get that? Just like great musicians, right? How did they even make that sound and all that aspect? Mike, talk a little bit about the mission of the museum.
Well, the mission of the museum is to basically bring art to the community and to really give a platform for young artists. It's unfortunate in today's society that we don't put this first. When you start seeing so many young people that are so creative, and when we do give that platform to them, the stuff that they create is just phenomenal. And so the museum is steeped in education, mentorship, and again, providing resources and a platform for those young artists.
So you're on my favorite subject. I was a journalist to start, then I worked for San Diego Unified in developing curriculum and so forth, and now went back to the newspaper doing things in community in their area. But whenever we have folks on that are tied to the VAPA space, visual performing arts, it warms my heart, because we can teach every single subject under the sun through what you folks do. Science, math, language arts, history, physics, you name it, and all this. Plus the fact there is not anything else that is more of a collaborator and bringing people together than the arts. And I think that it's wonderful that you folks on that, not just with young folks, but with everybody on that. Talk about how important that is to the museum and the cultural center.
Well, it's incredibly important. Excuse me. The where we're at right now is that the Bonita Museum is in its 20th year, and one of the things that I realized a number of years ago is that we weren't recognized in the community. People didn't know where we were. And so when we started down this road of the sculpture garden and really starting to to bring this out to where we could, in essence, say the Bonita Museum is here and we want people to know where we're at. Then we started getting a lot more recognition. This particular project has really opened a lot of eyes to the work that we're doing.
So talk about the sculpture garden.
Well, the sculpture garden, from my perspective, and I'll just be very brief, and then I'll turn it over to Michael. But it kind of came out of COVID. The museum was, for all intents and purposes, closed. You couldn't really go in. And so when I came back on the board, it was, in essence, we need to have some works outside. People can kind of walk around the grounds. And I started looking at the sculpture gardens that are in San Diego County and said, okay, we can do this. And then I was very fortunate to be introduced to Michael Leaf. And then the ideas just flowed. And so this has been a 3-year intense project with both the city of Chula Vista, which owns the land, and the county of San Diego, which owns the building. So there's been a lot of collaboration with landlords and bureaucracies. Not saying that's bad. It's just taught me a lot. And so when I had the opportunity to meet Michael, then, like I said, the ideas flowed. And this has turned into really something from our perspective that is just kind of mind-blowing.
Talk about that, Michael. The sculpture garden.
Oh, man. Yeah, I champion everything Mike said, right? And it's when COVID hit, it just shut everything down in so many ways. And Bill Osborne, a friend of ours,
right,
said, and I've known Bill for many years, at least 10 plus. And he called me and said, hey, can I come have a talk with you? I need to pick your brain a little. And he kind of shared this idea that Mike had and this like sculpture garden thing. And he said, our biggest problem is nobody knows there's a museum. People drive right by it. The building kind of goes invisible. It's like, oh, there's a museum across from McDonald's. That's kind of the joke, right? And I thought, I have an idea, and it just showed up. And I'm a 3rd-generation Chula Vista resident in South Bay specifically, and I ride by there all the time on my bike. So I know what he meant by that. So we had a meeting between Mike and some other board members and kind of like started discussing some possibilities and also some visions I was having, which we'll let Mike kind of take on that a little bit later. But as he said, once we all kind of came together, it created this colliding of thought, and then it just snowballed. It's like, that's possible? Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's possible for sure. Let's do it. How is that possible? Like this? Well, who do we talk to? Okay, let's start there. And Mike is he's so positively proactive, and I've gotten to know him he's a lifelong friend at this point. I know that for a fact. And his perspective on the arts and giving back, it just kind of was, let's one step in front of the next, let's conquer it and go to the next.
Well, we're in a time right now where, foolishly, and I'll just say this, my words, not Michael or Mike's, they may think it, but Drew will say the words on this. Think about not putting more effort in the arts. It should be the exact opposite, okay? We should be pouring money into the arts for 75,000 different reasons, what we talked about before, whether it was for the students, whether it's for the young folks, whether it's just, to shine a light on that beautiful museum that you folks have had for 20 years in this area. But, listen, kudos to you folks working with bureaucracies, not the easiest thing in the world. I work for San Diego Unified, the 8th largest school district in the country. A lot of very talented and great people, as you know, when you work in government. But some challenges in this aspect as well. So, but you had this vision, and so would it work like this? Michael, you'd say, "Boy, Mike, I think we can do this. Now, go talk to somebody who can make this happen." Or am I wrong on how that worked?
No, you're completely on point. And again, with our board, which I've been involved since really the museum was young, and putting together business people that had that access. And so we draw on a lot of those relationships to be able to open those doors. Okay, whether that's with, again, county officials,
Right.
city officials. My job is to not have Michael worry about any of that, and to go and kind of part the Red Sea to a certain extent,
Right.
and think forward 5 steps. Where are we going to be a year from now, and what do we have to accomplish to make sure that we've got the support that we need? Raising money for a project like this is very, very challenging.
Sure is.
But we've been blessed that we've had a lot of people that have been involved in this, and we've had a lot of community resources and people step up and say, we really love the fact that this is going to be exposed to the community, and they've given, and that's been very important to us.
Yeah, and I imagine as well, I mean, obviously the pride in being in Bonita, but I think the pride in South County, you talk about this, is that, hey, this is a pretty cool place. Now we're going to shine even a bigger light on it. Okay, thanks you, Michael, with some of your thoughts on this, and Mike, you greasing the skids in this area. So it's something we can be proud of, not just in Bonita, but the whole South County and this aspect of it. And that might sound obvious, but maybe not in that area of it. So 3 years in the making, correct? Is that right?
It feels maybe a smidge more, but maybe that's my emotional.
Yeah, right. It says 3 years
At minimum.
or 3 decades, whatever. There's a 3 in there somewhere in this aspect of it. But, when we come back from break, Michael, I want to talk about, I'm always fascinated when I see creative folks, whether it's in the arts or whether it's in music or whether it's in, performing arts, how they think this way. And here you are, did this come out exactly how you thought it would 3 years ago, or you bob and you weave and you go, okay, went down this, the store was closed. So think about that aspect of it. And, Mike, we also save all time in the second half of the interview of all of our spotlight interviews. What can our listeners do to support your efforts? We know go down to the museum, support the museum, and that aspect of it as well. But other things we can do when we return, chatting with Mike Cohen. He's the trustee of the Bonita Museum, joined by Michael Leaf, CEO of Michael Leaf Design, beautiful sculpture garden we're going to hear more about. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we're going to be right back after this short break.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. So pleased to have in the studio with us today our friends of the Bonita Museum and Cultural Center, Mike Cohen, trustee. 12 years as a trustee?
Correct.
Very good, but you've been involved. You know the museum for its 20 years, a history on it, joined by Michael Leaf, CEO, Michael Leaf Design, architect, sculpture. Now he's a bureaucratic expert, knows how to navigate some of these there. Honored to have join me is the senior producer of our Spotlight on the Community Show, Ian Solomon from San Diego State. Go at it, Ian.
So I'm kind of curious in hearing a little bit more about the creative process behind this project in terms of where like you pulled inspiration from, or whether you kind of built upon ideas you had before this project even came about. Just kind of how you kind of pulled all these things together to create this project.
We got 3 hours.
Man, you're killing me. You're asking that guy to describe that in a second. So how the building is wrapped is in a metal pattern I designed called It. Because many, many years ago, I made maybe like a 10-foot vine-ish version in my own shop and went, what do I call it? Because it was so organic in shape and movement. And I'm like, oh, it's just called It. And ever since that moment, I've wanted to just wrap stuff in It. I've done, some private residence things. I've done some other installations of It, but nothing that exceeded kind of the vine aspect. And I've always wanted to wrap a building. I can see it in my head since the day began. And when I was asked, how do we let the world know we're a museum? As clear as you can go see it today, I saw it in my head. It wasn't really how do I do that? It was, now it's done. It's done. How do we get it into the material world? So with creative thinking of, hey, we got to get this engineered. Sure, no problem. Boom, boom, boom. Next, and we just did the checklist part that would complement the creative part without sacrificing the vision. Kind of as a work backwards, then work forward kind of thing. As far as the color palette of what you will see, that this project turned out in some ways exactly how I envisioned, and in other ways far greater. So much greater. And I say that the architecture of it was dead on, identical to the original. The color was actually very thought out as to what's complementary, what's unique, what could be groundbreaking here. It's a first color changing building, and my knowledge of our wonderful community and also San Diego, it changes both with light and depth. So it's kind of wild. It looks like it's lit up in the daytime, but it isn't.
Ian loves this. He's eating this stuff up, I'm telling you, because of what he wants to go in his world on that. Did that answer somewhat of your question?
Absolutely.
I'm like, oh, geez, how many hours you got? I'll talk about it.
No.
We'll get into it.
No, you stated it beautifully on that. And so, Mike, a couple questions for you on this aspect of it. Obviously, the sculpture garden is beautiful, very important for the museum. Has it shined even a greater light on the museum where more people are aware of it, and now people understand what has been going on in that museum? It always has been going on in the museum. And has it brought different types of exhibits to the museum?
Well, we've always had, at least from my perspective, world-class exhibits.
Right.
One of the challenges that we've faced as a small museum, self-funding for all intents and purposes, is finding a director that understands where we need to go 20 years from now. And we've been very, very fortunate to have a director by the name of Wendy Wilson Gibson that, from my perspective, is she is a true museum director. She introduces us to the types of exhibits that most small museums never see. And so we just need to get the exposure out there. This project will do a lot of that. But I believe that we've got a lot of maturity inside that we've maybe never been able to show on the outside.
We mentioned this a little earlier on this. We could satisfy what we need to do in all grade levels, TK through senior in high school, but just having people go to the unbelievable museums we have in our region. There's no question about it. And you folks really work well together. You guys applaud what each other, whether it's a USS Midway Museum or it's the Bonita Museum, or you go up to the north, and it's so important in this area. I'm just so thrilled the work that you are doing with some of the South Bay schools and that aspect of it, focusing on, getting these kids engaged in this aspect of it is the most important thing you can do on this. When you are out there, do you chat with some of the kids, Michael, that go through the exhibit, some of the schools that come by, or that hasn't happened yet?
Not yet, but this installation was done last Friday.
Right.
Completed. But
Right.
I had 30, 40, 50 people a day stopping me during installation to compliment, and they were so engaged at what is happening. What is it like? It was unbelievable.
Yeah, because I know those students, and you know what I'm talking about, Mike. They're just going to eat Michael up, in a very positive way. Oh, you're the guy who designed this thing? Oh, my goodness, and so forth. And just ask all the questions because what I love talking about on this show are the different types of jobs that come out of certain areas. And, well, listen, I'm not an artist. What do I know about museums? Well, museums need a lot more than just artists. They need finance folks. They need accountants. They need marketers. They need folks like you that can do almost everything on this and be advocates in this area. It's a great profession to be in, and it lines to so many different types of tentacles in that area. Talk about how this has helped with what you have future plans for the Bonita Museum.
Well, it's been really the springboard for where we want to go long term, and Michael and I have developed I think it's a very special relationship. But you have to understand, Drew, that I've been very privileged and honored to come inside the brain of an artist, and
good luck.
He shares text with me 10 times a day. This is where I'm going. This is what I'm thinking. Check this out, and to watch this project develop. But where we're going down the road is we're at phase 1 on the building, phase 2 in the parking lot. Now we're going phase 3 on the grounds, and then phase 4. We've already had dialogue with the city of Chula Vista for an art walk around Roar Park, and also as a part of their master plan. I know I can share this because I just met with Mayor McCann, and he said, I fully support this, Mike, and we will make this happen. So what we really want to provide, Drew, is we want to provide the diversity of artists that exist in our region to allow them to show their art in a much broader way. And we don't know what this art walk will ultimately look like, but we expect it to be world-class.
Yeah, whenever you shine a light on something that, this passion of 3 years you folks have done, and probably 33 years moving forward, who knows that. Well, Michael Leaf, you're very young. You'll be around 33 years, probably 133 years maybe, and that aspect of it is so spot on. And I think it sends a message that this is what we want to do for our artists, young, and it doesn't make a difference how old you are. You're an artist. Doesn't make it, you can be an artist at TK, you can be an artist at 89 years old. I think that's fantastic. And I think it's wonderful that putting a footprint on the Bonita Museum that has always done great stuff, but now people are aware of what it's done. We all know this in the world of what I live is that you get a little frustrated when you say, boy, I wish I would have known more about X. You only have so many hours in the day and you're just bombarded with stuff, but hopefully this will start on this aspect of it. Are there how do people get to the museum? What's the website? What type of exhibits you have coming up? What's the best way of doing this?
Bonita Museum Cultural Center. .org, and we're on Instagram, Facebook. I don't have all the addresses for you, but
no worries.
We're easy to find. We're right in the heart of Bonita. You can go to the Chula Vista Library, and we're right next door. Prior to the building clad, we were the building across the street from McDonald's. Now McDonald's is across the street from the museum.
100%. And I'll start with you on this, Michael, and any thoughts at all? And what would you say to those people that you really do need to make it down to the museum to see it? What would you say?
I'd almost that, right? Like to see this in a picture or on a video is one thing. You can't do it in person. I think the task it set out to create, it was nailed, and it took a group of us to do it for sure. I'm just kind of the visual vessel that created it. But
well, you're understanding yourself, obviously, and and both of you guys work such as a team, and that's what when you see these things work, when people work as a team, obviously 1 + 1 equals about 100 in that aspect of it. So this won't be the last time we'll have you folks on as we follow what else you're doing. Okay. Ring me up and say, Drew, we got a new exhibit. We have a new something coming up. I think this is worth chatting about. You can always have a place here in our Spotlight show.
yeah, next week.
Fine. We'll add
3
a show.
more installations going in next week.
Yeah, well, we'll add a show. No, seriously, we would like to be very much, as our next guest knows, Deborah Emerson from St. Madeline Sophie Center. She's been coming on for many moons over. You can't talk enough about this. You can't be one and I'll see you in a year. It's going to be, you got to be consistent with this, and what you folks are doing is fantastic, and I make that offer.
We appreciate it, and we very much appreciate you having us and allowing us to at least talk a little bit about what we're doing and where we're going.
We're just getting started on it. Mike Cohen is the trustee for the Bonita Museum and Cultural Center. Michael Leaf, CEO. Michael Leaf designed a beautiful sculpture garden. Our listeners enjoyed this edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Thank you.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.